Good morning. I suppose Ting is our Periscope mascot for now. Hi, Betty. Apparently a lot of people thought he was going to stay here. Hi, Nina. We caved. We're going to keep him. Hi, Bernice. Oh, brother. Look at that face. Hi, Tanya. Good morning, you guys. Lester Bell. That's pretty. From the office again. Oh, stay out of my tea. He likes my tea because there's half and half in it. Hi, Michelle. Oh my gosh. Oh my god, you guys. Oh. Whoops. Okay. Hello. Oh, shit. I have like a major mess on my hands. Like literally. You know, we've had a lot of live TV moments on Periscope. But I've never had tea spill over the phone. Hold on, let me, I don't even have anything out here to take care of it with. You know what? We're just gonna roll with it. There's tea dripping everywhere. Oh well. We'll be fine. And it looks like it's actually making the screen move around, isn't it? I'm not sure what to do. Okay. My phone is like got tea dripping all down the screen and the back and the floor because he hit my tea when he jumped. But I've totally thrown off my game here. That totally caught me by surprise. Oh, the joys of cat ownership. Let's read some Big Magic, shall we? Oh my god. I think that's the first time I've had something go haywire that I wasn't able to really recover from right away. I feel like I should go back to bed and start over. I know, right? He's going to give maybe Tonka a run for his money. Okay. Well, yes, it could be. Hopefully my phone is not like permanently screwed. And it's a good reminder to bring some paper towels out here. I don't have any towels or anything. So, the last time we were reading Big Magic, she was talking about how she had to cut her story to the bone and how she approached that with a attitude of a professional challenge rather than as an attitude of whininess that, oh my god, I have to cut my story by 30,000 words. Hi, everybody that just came in. You missed the tea incident. It's kind of a mess. Still is. No. It's like, no, I signed on and then we had a tea thing and there's crap everywhere and I'm just trying to find my bearings again. A little distracted. So anyway, the next chapter in this book is called It Ain't Your Baby. That's super frustrating. I don't know what that's about. When people talk about their creative work, they often call it their baby, which is the exact opposite of taking it lightly. If you start calling it your baby and thinking of it as your baby, you're going to have a really hard time letting it go. A friend of mine, a week before her new novel was to be published, told me, I feel like I'm putting my baby on the school bus for the first time, and I'm afraid the bullies will make fun of him. Truman Capote stated it even more bluntly. Finishing a book is just like you took a child out in the backyard and shot it. God. Guys, please don't mistake your creative work for a human child, okay? It's not that. This kind of thinking will only lead you to deep psychic pain. Hi, Aaron. I'm dead serious about this, because if you honestly believe that your work is your baby, you will have trouble cutting away 30% of it someday, which you may need to do. You also won't be able to handle it if somebody criticizes or corrects your baby or suggests you might consider completely modifying your baby, or even tries to buy and sell your baby on the open market. You might not be able to release your work or share it at all, because how will that poor defenseless baby survive without you hovering over it and tending to it? It's important to keep your creative product in its proper place. Your creative work is not your baby. If anything, you're its baby. Everything I've ever written has brought me into being. Every project has matured me in a different way. I am who I am today precisely because of what I have made and what it has made me into. Creativity has hand-raised me and forged me into an adult, starting with my experience with that short story Pilgrims, which taught me how not to act like a baby. Let's get some more light in here. That's better. All of which is to say that in the end, I did squeeze an abbreviated version of Pilgrims into the November 1993 issue of Esquire by the skin of its teeth. A few weeks later, as fate would have it, Terry McDonald, my champion, did indeed leave his job as editor-in-chief of the magazine. Whatever short stories and feature articles of the magazine he left behind never saw the light of day. Mine would have been among them, buried in a shallow grave, had I not been willing to make those cuts. And that was her big break. So if she hadn't been willing to view that as a challenge to reduce that already short story by another 30%, it could have taken her years, even years longer. I mean, I believe she would eventually have gotten there, but it could have delayed the process. But I did make the cuts, thank heavens, and the story was cool and different because of it, and I got my big break. My story caught the eye of the literary agent who signed me up and who has now guided my career with grace and precision for more than 20 years. When I look back on that incident, I shudder at what I almost lost. Had I been more prideful, somewhere in the world today, there would be a short story called Pilgrims, 10 pages long, which nobody would ever read. It would be untouched and pure, like polished granite, and I might still be a bartender. I also think it's interesting that once Pilgrims was published in Esquire, I never really thought about it again. It was not the best thing I would ever write, not even close. I had so much more work ahead of me, and I got busy with that work. Pilgrims was not a consecrated relic, after all. It was just a thing I had made and loved, then changed, remade, and still loved, and then published, and then put aside so I could go on to make other things. Thank God I didn't let it become my undoing. What a sad and self-destructive act of martyrdom that would have been, to have rendered my writing so inviolable that I defended its sanctity to its very death. Instead, I put my trust in play, in pliancy, in trickery. Because I was willing to be light with my work, that short story became not a grave, but a doorway that I stepped through into a wonderful and bigger new life. Be careful of your dignity, is what I'm saying. It's not always your friend. When you're doing creative stuff and putting it out in the world, I have found it helps to be a little bit shameless. Like if you can get to a place where what matters more to you is putting it out in the world rather than what the reactions are to it, it's a lot easier. I have a letter that I was written for in support of a politician where I used to work, that's on her page, and got some, negative feedback in the comments. And a year or so ago, I would have felt motivated to defend my letter, and I had help writing it because there's lots of words in there that I needed help with when you're writing about politics. But the person who helped me wants to remain anonymous. Anyway, I didn't feel, I thought so. It said what I wanted to say. It's the truth. But there's people attacking it in the comments, of course, And a year ago, I would have felt like offended by that and had, I would have defended it in the comments. I would have said something back. Yeah, and I saw them. I didn't even know they were there. And I saw them and I was like, whatever. You never worked for the guy. You don't know. And it's my letter. It's just my opinion. It's not, that's just is what it is. So I felt good about that I've really let that go. Like, if it's not that often that people openly criticize my work. I mean, I know that things get said elsewhere, but it's not that often where it's public. But it didn't bother me, so I was happy about that. To me, I view that as a sign of progress I've made, that the things that I'm putting out there, I really have let go of where they go, including these periscopes. I don't know where they go. All kinds of people see these things, and they see my mistakes, and they see, cats spilling tea all over the place in my little camper. It's a nice feeling. Yeah, it's really nice. So that's what she's saying. Like, let go of your pride, let go of your dignity. I feel good about it, and people can't shame you if you're shameless. If you've already imagined the worst that can happen, that someone's going to say your work is crap, that someone's going to say your letter is garbage and not even true and yada yada. If you can experience that in your head before it even happens, then when it really does happen, you're like, no big deal. No big deal. And that can apply to anything, any project that you're doing. If you can let go of worrying about criticism of it, it's a very freeing feeling. So the next one is passion versus curiosity. May I also urge you to forget about passion. Perhaps you're surprised to hear this from me, but I am somewhat against passion, or at least I'm against the preaching of passion. I don't believe in telling people all you need to do is follow your passion and everything will be fine. I think this can be an unhelpful and even cruel suggestion at times. First of all, it can be an unnecessary piece of advice, because if someone has a clear passion, odds are they're already following it and they don't need anyone to tell them to pursue it. That's kind of the definition of a passion after all, an interest you chase obsessively almost because you have no choice. But a lot of people don't know exactly what their passion is, or they may have multiple passions, or they may be going through a midlife change of passion, all of which can leave them feeling confused and blocked and insecure. If you don't have a clear passion and someone blithely tells you to go follow your passion, I think you have the right to give that person the middle finger. Because that's like somebody telling you that all you need in order to lose weight is to be thin. And all you need in order to have a great sex life is to be multi-orgasmic. That doesn't help. I'm generally a pretty passionate person myself, but not every single day. Sometimes I have no idea where my passion has gone off to. I don't always feel actively inspired, nor do I always feel certain about what to do next. But I don't sit around waiting for passion to strike me. I keep working steadily because I believe it is our privilege as humans to keep making things for as long as we live, and because I enjoy making things. Most of all, I keep working because I trust that creativity is always trying to find me, even when I have lost sight of it. So how do you find the inspiration to work when your passion has flagged? Hi, Christina. This is where curiosity comes in. So devotion to inquisitiveness. I believe that curiosity is the secret. Curiosity is the truth and the way of creative living. It's the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end. Furthermore, curiosity is accessible to everyone. Passion can seem intimidatingly out of reach sometimes, a distant tower of flame, accessible only to geniuses and those who are specially touched by God. But curiosity is a milder, quieter, more welcoming, more democratic entity. The stakes of curiosity are also far lower than the stakes of passion. Passion makes you get divorced and sell all your possessions and shave your head and move to Nepal. Curiosity doesn't ask nearly so much from you. Good morning, New Jersey. In fact, curiosity only ever asks one simple question. Is there anything you're interested in? Anything? Even a tiny bit? No matter how mundane or small? The answer need not set your life on fire or make you quit your job or force you to change your religion or send you into a fugue state. It just has to capture your attention for a moment. But in that moment, if you can pause and identify even one tiny speck of interest in something, then curiosity will ask you to turn your head a quarter of an inch and look at the thing a wee bit closer. Do it. It's a clue. It might seem like nothing, but it's a clue. Follow it. Trust it. See where curiosity will lead you next. Then follow the next clue and the next one and the next. Remember, it doesn't have to be a voice in the desert. It's just a harmless little scavenger hunt. Following that scavenger hunt of curiosity can lead you to amazing, unexpected places. It may even eventually lead you to your passion, although through a strange, untraceable passageway of back alleys, underground caves, and secret doors. Or it might lead you nowhere. You might spend your whole life following your curiosity and have absolutely nothing to show for it at the end except one thing. You will have the satisfaction of knowing that you passed your entire existence in devotion to the noble human virtue of inquisitiveness. And that should be more than enough for anyone to say that they lived a rich and splendid life. I absolutely believe that's true. I think if I wasn't just a naturally curiosity person, depression would have made me commit suicide years ago. I have just enough curiosity about what the next day might bring that it's kept me out of doing something disastrous during dealing with episodes of depression. I think not having curiosity is a tragedy of an existence. When I first met Heath, he wasn't curious about much of anything. I mean, he grew up on the eastern plains of Colorado. There's nothing there. Nothing. Nothing but drugs and cows and flat nothingness. So he actually didn't have a lot of curiosity. It had somehow gotten squelched in him with everything that he'd been through. But over time, it came back to him, and now he's super curious, and he's willing to try things just to see what happens. That's how he ends up building so many things, is he is like, well, let's try this, and let's try that. And then he'll hit a roadblock with something that he's engineering, and he'll go away because he has learned that if he goes away and leaves it alone and does something else, the idea for how to fix his invention will pop in his head and he'll go do it and it works. So he's really intuitive that way, although he wouldn't call it that. He wouldn't label it intuition. He would say it just is because he's not an analytical type like we are. So let's read this scavenger hunt section. It's several pages, and then I'll probably wrap that up for today. So let me give you an example of where the scavenger hunt of curiosity can lead you. I've already told you the story of the greatest novel I never wrote. Remember that story at the beginning of the book of the Amazon jungle? That book had been a passion project and had come to me in a brainwave of physical and emotional excitement and inspiration. But then I got distracted by life, and it left me. So it goes, so it went. After the Amazon jungle idea was gone, I didn't have another brainwave of physical and emotional excitement and inspiration right away. I kept waiting for a big idea to arrive, and I kept announcing to the universe that I was ready, but no big ideas arrived. There were no goosebumps, no hairs standing up on the back of my neck, no butterflies in my stomach. It was like St. Paul rode his horse all the way to Damascus and nothing happened, except maybe it rained a bit. Most days this is what life is like. I poked about for a while in my everyday chores, writing emails, shopping for socks, resolving small emergencies, and sending out birthday cards. I took care of the orderly business of life. As time ticked by and an impassioned idea still had not ignited me, I didn't panic. Instead, I did what I've done so many times before. I turned my attention away from passion and toward curiosity. I asked myself, is there anything you're interested in right now, Liz? Anything? Even a tiny bit? It turned out there was. Gardening. I know. Contain your excitement, everyone. Gardening. Martha Beck says when she gets stuck like this, or when she's needing an answer to something, she'll deliberately choose 3 or 4 books and magazines, or even more, and she'll just flip them open and read, and then grab the next one, flip it open and read, and do that several times, and then just let all that mush around in her brain for a while until she gets motivated to do something. I haven't tried that. I've never run out of curiosity, but if I did, I would try that. Reading and random, like she wouldn't pick 5 of the same genre book. She'd pick a science magazine and a Ladies' Home Journal, or do they even make that magazine anymore? Ladies' Home Journal? But, random, like completely different things like that to spark her creativity. I'd recently moved to a small town in rural New Jersey. I'd bought an old house that came with a nice backyard. Now I wanted to plant a garden. This impulse surprised me. I'd grown up with a garden, but I'd never been much interested in it. As a lazy child, I'd worked quite hard not to learn anything about gardening, despite my mother's best efforts to teach me. I'd never been a creature of the soil. I didn't love country life when I was a kid. I found farm chores boring, difficult, and sticky, and I'd never sought it out as an adult. An aversion to the hard work of country living is exactly why I'd gone off to live in New York City and why I'd become a traveler, because I didn't want to be any kind of farmer. But now I'd moved to a town even smaller than the town in which I'd grown up, and now I wanted a garden.
Hi, buddies.
Hi. Ting spilled tea all over the place.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was a disaster. I didn't desperately want a garden, understand. I wasn't prepared to die for a garden. I just thought a garden would be nice. Curious. The whim was small enough that I could have ignored it. It barely had a pulse. But I didn't. Instead, I followed that small clue of curiosity, and I planted some things. As I did so, let me raise this up and get the breeze. I realized I knew more about this gardening business than I thought. Apparently, I accidentally learned some stuff from my mother, despite my very best efforts not to. I planted some more things. I recalled more childhood memories. I thought more about my mother, my grandmother, my long ancestry of women who'd worked the earth. It was nice. As the season passed, I found myself seeing my backyard with different eyes. What I was raising no longer looked like my mother's garden, it was starting to look like my own. For instance, unlike my mom, a masterful vegetable garden, I wasn't interested in vegetables. Rather, I longed for the brightest, showiest flowers I could get my hands on. Furthermore, I discovered I didn't want to merely cultivate these plants. I also wanted to know stuff about them. Specifically, I wanted to know where they had come from. Those heirloom irises that ornamented my yard, for instance, what was their origin? I did exactly 1 minute of research on the internet and learned that my irises were not indigenous to New Jersey. They had, in fact, originated in Syria. That was kind of cool to discover. Then I did some more research. The lilacs were apparently descendants of similar bushes that had once bloomed in Turkey. My tulips originated in Turkey, though there'd been a lot of interfering. Dutchmen, it turned out, between those original wild Turkish tulips and my domesticated fancy varieties. My dogwood was local, my forsythia wasn't. It came from Japan. My wisteria was also far from home. An English sea captain had brought the stuff over from Europe to Europe from China. Then British settlers had brought it to the New World, and rather recently, actually. I started running background checks on every single plant in my garden. I took notes. My curiosity grew. What intrigued me was not so much the garden, but the botanical history behind it. A wild and little-known tale of trade, adventure, and global intrigue. That could be a book, right? Maybe? I kept following the trail of curiosity. I elected to trust completely in my fascination. I elected to believe that I was interested in all this botanical trivia for a good reason. So she's letting herself, this is that life revealed thing. You get an impulse to do something and you follow it. You feel a hint of curiosity towards something. It's usually very small. It's usually really quiet. A little small voice, a little tiny impulse to do something. When you follow it, it starts to increase, exactly how she's describing. Now she's talking about how as she was following it, she trusted in it. She believed it was for a reason. Hi, Allie. And synchronicity kicked in, just like we always talk about, and we see it every day. If we're in flow, we see more and more synchronicity. So accordingly, portents and coincidences began to appear before me, all related to this newfound interest in botanical history. I stumbled upon the right books, the right people, the right opportunities. For instance, the expert whose advice I needed to seek out about the history of mosses lived, it turned out, only a few minutes from my grandfather's house in rural upstate New York. And a 200-year-old book I had inherited from my great-grandfather held the key I'd been searching for. A vivid historical character worthy of embellishing into a novel. It was all right in front of me. This is exactly how it happens when you allow your creative impulses to grow. And you trust that there's a reason for those impulses, those curiosity things. Then I started to go a little crazy with it. My search for more information about botanical exploration eventually led me around the planet, from my backyard in New Jersey to the horticultural libraries of England, from England to the medieval pharmaceutical gardens of Holland. Who knew that there were medieval pharmaceutical gardens in Holland still today? And from there to the moss-covered caves of French Polynesia. 3 years of research and travel and investigation later, I finally sat down to begin writing The Signature of All Things, a novel about a fictional family of 19th century botanical explorers. It's an excellent book. I really, really enjoyed The Signature of All Things. It's a great book. It was a novel I never saw coming. It started with nearly nothing. It only started with her quiet little impulse to plant something. That's it. Had she not followed it or dismissed it as silly, she wouldn't have ended up writing a really excellent book. I didn't leap into that book with my hair on fire. I inched toward it clue by clue. But by the time I looked up from my scavenger hunt and began to write, I was completely consumed with passion about 19th century botanical exploration. 3 years early, I'd never even heard of 19th century botanical exploration. All I'd wanted was a modest garden in my backyard. But now I was writing a massive story about plants, science, evolution, abolition, and love and loss, and one woman's journey into intellectual transcendence. So it worked. But it only worked because I said yes to every single tiny clue of curiosity that I had noticed around me. That's big magic, you see. It's big magic on a quiet scale, a slower scale, but make no mistake about it, it's still big magic. You just have to learn to trust it. It's all about the yes. Saying yes to impulses, saying yes to life, allows more life to be revealed to you. And by life, I mean your life, what you're here to do, the things that you're uniquely situated and you have the available skills and talents to express them in the world differently than any other person on the planet. There's no single other person on the planet that has the same perspective and life experiences that you do. Even siblings growing up in the same household have wildly different experiences. And by allowing that flow to come through you, you can produce something that nobody else can produce. You say yes a lot, but Bernice does not like to ask questions. Bernice is like my husband. She's irritated by too many questions. And my husband often says to me, please stop asking me questions. You ask too many questions. Why do you gotta ask so many questions? All these goddamn questions. But it's true, because I have more than my fair share of curiosity about the world. It sometimes gets me in quite a bit of trouble. But it sometimes leads to really cool stuff, too. And if you've lost your curiosity, yes, you are. If you don't feel curious about life anymore because you've taken too many hits or things have been too hard for too long, make an artist date with yourself. And that is just go somewhere you've never been before. Go to a completely different bookstore. Go to a completely different town and play tourist for a day. Go to just little shops. All towns have usually a little clutter collection of shops. Go to different shops where you've never been and look at it as a tourist and just see what strikes you. Just walk around looking at different things can spark your creativity if you've lost your sense of it or you feel like you're in a flat spot. Go to a park you've never been to and just sit on the park bench and people watch. The only thing good about Vegas that I could find is, well, two things. They have awesome buffets. And the other thing was the people watching is amazing in Vegas. You could people watch there the rest of your life and write all kinds of stories. It's super fun for me to sit and watch people and make up things in my head about what they might be talking about. This is cheap entertainment. This is what happens when you're basically raised as an only child without a lot of TV. You end up thinking about a lot of things, which is good. It's a good thing. Oh, kitty. Oh, kitty. Yeah, I could sit in Vegas for hours and watch people. It's very fun. It's fun to see how different people dress. It's fun to see couples together and try and figure out, is it a first date or have they been together for a long time? Is one of them a hooker? It's just fun. It's really fun. So if you are not feeling big magic, if you're not feeling any kind of magic, that's just a few ways that you can get that back for yourself, to go back in time and find when you still had it and bring it forward to the present day. That's my advice for you. Go somewhere you've never been and look around with just open eyes and see what sparks your fancy. On the boardwalk at the shore, I've never been on a boardwalk. Ever. My whole life. I should do that. That would be fun. It is on my list of things to do this year, to get to the beach at some point. We're only 6 hours away from Tybee Island off the coast of Georgia. We should really do that. So, that's what I've got for you today. Go play tourist somewhere. Make an artist date with yourself. Go to museums and galleries and spend longer than 30 seconds in front of each painting. I think I had an art history teacher that said once they actually did a study that people spend about 30 to 60 seconds standing in front of paintings at museums. Go find a painting, a classic in a museum if you're lucky enough to live close to one, and really look at it. Like, take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, and really look at every square inch of the canvas. One of the most fun job assignments I ever had was I worked at the Colorado State University Police Department, and we were their little unarmed community service officers. It was kind of a silly job, but we got put in charge of providing security for an art exhibit of some of the masters classics that were on loan from the Denver Art Museum. So we had a couple of Van Goghs, we had some Monets, we had some Gauguins, we had some classics. Oh, Fort Worth museums are amazing. I grew up in those museums. Thank God my mom took us to the museums all the time. Love Fort Worth's museums. I'm sure that's where a great deal of my love and curiosity comes from. So I got to spend, when nobody was in there, I got to spend hours looking at about 20 classic. I really want to go to the Smithsonian. It's one of my bucket list things. Yeah, Fort Worth and Dallas has got a lot of stuff in it. So I got to stand there and just look at Monet's paintings and just imagine his hands and see the little tiny, the brush strokes are there. There's little, hair marks from the paintbrushes. There's all this amazing detail that I hadn't seen, because first of all, if it's in a reproduction, you miss something. And second of all, at a museum, you tend to move along too fast. So it was a real gift to me that I had about 3 weeks to really look at those. And that's where I really developed an appreciation for Van Gogh. Before that, I didn't really, I wasn't particularly drawn to his work. All I knew about him was that he was kind of a nut job and that he probably killed himself. That's all I really knew. I was much more fascinated with Monet and people like that. So, go to a museum that you've gone to 100 times, but go in the other direction. Switch it up. Go opposite and make yourself stand 5 minutes in front of at least a dozen different displays. Just see. It's just things to shake up your brain out of its ruts that we get into and allow a crack in your mind that some creativity can come in. So try it. It's not very costly. It can actually be free, the price of a ticket and lunch or coffee or something. So I gotta go. The little guy's got a vet appointment this afternoon because he's sickly and I got stuff to do. I'll see you tomorrow from the twins, and I think we're pretty close to wrapping up our Tao Te Ching. It might not be tomorrow, it might be Sunday or Monday, but we're pretty close to that. And then we're just going to start over. And then I'll add mind body code one day next week. Or the mind body code. Bye. Have a great day. Welcome to your Friday. Oh, do you want to say bye? Bye.
What? 10-10?
Much love.